Hi. So today we are going to talk about one of the questions of recursion. So while we are discussing this question of recursion, this is a kind of, I'll say, simple problem, not the very basic one, but you will need to have some sort of knowledge of recursion in case you want to solve this problem. And in case you are unable to solve this problem and you go through this video, so you will understand a lot about recursion. So it's really important that you go across the video and you also try and solve on your own. Okay. So first we will try and understand the question. The question, once we understand, there isn't much of logic part, So how it goes is you have to understand the question and then you have to see how we are going to implement this in recursion. So that's how it's going to be. Okay. The question is pretty simple. And then we have pretty simple logic. We just have to understand and we just have to try that how do I write the recursive code. And this is the problem many of us face, when we talk about recursion. So we'll see that in this particular question. So let's just first understand the question. So what the question says, as you can see, it's one of the questions of my code platform at PrepBytes. So let's first understand the question. It is one of the initial questions of recursion. So the question says, PB Mentor believes recursion is a very important concept. Hence, she wants you to practice recursion properly. That's what I believe as well. So now let us start practicing recursion with a simple problem. You have to print a pattern using recursion. Given an input n, the pattern looks like this. So you have to print a pattern over here. Let's just understand what is the pattern. So the pattern is you are given n. The pattern goes as follow: n, a of I plus 1, n. So I see that the pattern starts from n and ends at n. And in between we have some continuous numbers. Let's see what is this ai plus 1, ai plus 2. Okay. So here, if ai is greater than 0, then ai is equal to ai minus 5. Okay. I'll repeat this again. If ai is greater than 0, then ai is equal to ai minus 5. Else ai plus 1 is equal to ai plus 5. It will be a decreasing sequence from n till ai is less than equal to 0, and then it will be an increasing sequence till n. See sample test cases for better explanation. I think I'll just see the sample test case. So here we have n is equal to 16. Then we have output 16, 11, 6, 1, minus 4, 1, 6, 11, 16. So I think it's going to be 16. Acha. So this is a of I plus 1 is equal to a of I minus 5 for ai greater than 0. Okay, so here we have 16. 16 minus 5 is 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. And we have 1 minus 5 is minus 4. So what happens is that for ai greater than 0, we have ai plus 1 is equal to ai minus 5. Else a of I plus 1 is equal to ai plus 5. So what it says is that as soon as we get something less than 0, we'll start adding 5. So we have minus 4 plus 5, 1. 1 plus 5, 6. 6 plus 5, 11, and 11 plus 5, 16. So we have to start printing from 16 and we have to end at 16, and this is what we are going to do. So as it is saying, first it will be in decreasing order and then it will be in increasing order. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. So let's just start this particular thing. Okay, so I have understood the question pretty much. So we'll have a sequence starting from n and ending at n. Then we'll have a decreasing sequence, and once we have something less than 0, we'll have the increasing sequence. As you can see the example here, the example is 10. For 10 it should be 10, 5, 0, 5 and 10. Okay, yeah, so it says sequence from 11. Yeah, so this is what it is going to be. Okay, so let's see the input output format. I hope you have understood the question pretty well. If you haven't understood the question, I'll suggest you that pause the video, read the problem statement, try to understand the problem statement. You should be very clear with it, and then you can just proceed further. Maybe you can just restart the video. Okay, so now let's just see the input format, output format. Input is first line contains an integer t denoting the number of test cases. For each of next t lines, each line contains an integer n. So you'll be given t, here t is 2, then you are given for each line, for 2 lines we'll have n. So n is 16 and 10. Okay. For each test case on a new line, print the required pattern. So for 16, this is the pattern. For 10, this is the pattern. So this is how input output is going to be. The constant is t will have value from 1 to 6 and n will have value from 0 to 2000. Okay. So that is my code. Now I have to write the recursive code for this. So I just want you to see how we are going to approach and reach towards our recursive code. So what happens is that we'll have to do some sort of thinking in here, and we should be clear with the recursion thing. And if you're clear with the recursion thing in terms of how the stack gets filled, how the return happens, and how the calling happens, then you should be able to solve this problem. So try this problem on your own, and then we'll discuss how we can solve this problem. Okay, now let's try and see how we're going to write the code for this. Quickly telling you what is the problem statement. What we saw was that you'll be given an number n, and you just have to print a pattern. So let's say if n is equal to 6, you have to print a pattern like 6, 1, -4, 1 and 6. And if the pattern is, let's say, 10, then it's going to be 10, 5, 0, 5 and 10. Okay, so now we have to come up with the code or the solution, you can say. Now what happens many a times is that whatever knowledge we have might not be we might not be able to come up with a solution directly or easily. So we somehow have to do some kind of hit and trial, or maybe some sort of observation, or just whatever knowledge we have, we will go around. So that is one of the way of solving the problem that we are going to use in this particular session. Okay, so now let's say what we can do is we can just do one thing. Let's see that what I can do. So whatever knowledge I have had in recursion till now, if my recursion is clear, is that I can maybe write code for this part. I can write code for this part, or I can write code for this part, and I can write a separate code for this part. Let's first do this thing, because if you are here in this question, solving question number 2 at the Prabhit's platform, then I'm assuming that you should be able to do this. This concept of yours must be clear, and you might have seen this in the video as well. Okay, now let's try and do that. Okay, so whenever we have to write the code, what are the few things that we have to keep in mind in case of recursive code is what are the operations we have to perform. Here in this case, the operation is going to be printing the values, or print n. Okay, now the other thing is what is going to be the base condition. So I'm first talking about just printing one part of the let's say this pattern. Okay, so here my base condition, as you can see, is that I should stop that if my n becomes less than equal to 0. We'll see what we will do in this base condition. Other thing is that what is going to be the parameter and how the parameter is going to change. So here my parameter will be n. This is one thing I know. We'll see if more parameters are required. Right now I think n is there, and we'll just keep on doing n minus 5 because it's 10 minus 5 again, this thing again. I'm just talking about this part. And the other thing is that what's going to be the return type. So we have to figure out these particular stuffs, and the thing is that how the operations are going to perform. If I have to put a print statement, where the print statement should be. Okay, so let's just try and write the code. Okay, so let's say the function is called print num. I'll have the parameter int n. I won't close the bracket. We'll see if nothing more is required, we'll simply close the bracket. Okay, my base condition is that if n is less than equal to 0. Okay, so now if n is less than equal to 0, what we have to do? We have to, one thing I know for sure is that we have to return. Okay, we'll see if there's anything that could be done. And now the other thing is that I'm going to call this function again and again with the parameter n minus 5. So I'll simply do print num n minus 5. These are the things that I know for sure. And I don't see any return thing happening. I'll just do void. Okay, now the question is, where do I put this particular print statement? Okay, so let's just whatever we have written, see how it's going to work. So let's say if my n is equal to 5, or let's say 6 initially. So n is 6 here. I check if it is less than 0. No, then I'll simply print n minus, then I'll simply call the function again n minus 5. Then again n changes. So I think that if I put my print statement here, it should be a good place, though I haven't left much space. Let's say I just put print n here. Okay, I have just kept my print statement here, and I don't see anything else I need to do if n is less than 0. I think the code is that. This is what I think. Let's say I've written the code, I just have to verify. Let's try and dry run this code once. Okay, so let's say my n is equal to 6 initially, and we'll also make the stack. So initially n is equal to 6, 6 goes inside, I print n, 6 gets printed. This particular condition is false. Again n minus 5, 1 gets inside the stack. Again 1 gets printed, n is less than or equal to 0, no. N minus 5 minus 4 gets into the stack, and then we have print n, minus 4 gets printed. We check that if n is less than or equal to 0, yes, n is less than or equal to 0, we simply return. So when we return, we come back here, there is nothing to be done. Again, we come back, and this is how, so let's say we are here minus 4, we return. When we return, we come back here. If there would have been some sort of operations here, that would have happened. There's something like that. Again, come back here, and then eventually we go to the main function which called this function. So this is 6 1 minus 4. This is done. So now I have written this code, and since I have already done this part, now other option that we have is that we write a separate code for this particular part. This is one way. But what if we have to write a single code, or let's say a single method for both this and this? So what I'm saying is that the whole pattern should be printed using a single method. Now I have to modify this code such that what should happen is that this particular part should also get printed. So let's just see that how was our stack, and again we will do some sort of observation here to understand that how we can do that. Okay, so this has been our stack. Now if you can see that this value and this value is same, this value and this value is same. So what happened is that initially it was minus 4. We have already printed 6 1 minus 4. When we come back from here to here, so when we do return, the value of n goes back from this, gets popped out from the stack, and the value of 1 goes back to 1. Now exactly at this point I want to print this 1, right? I have my 1 with me, I just have to print it. And as I've told you that if there would have been some statement after this particular line, when I do the return, that particular statement would have got printed. So why not I simply do print n here. I print my n here again. So what will happen is that as soon as we do the return here, when we have minus 4, we come back, our n becomes 1, it's there in the stack. This particular line gets executed, 1 gets printed, again 1 gets printed, there is nothing else, so this gets out of the stack. Now we have 6, again after returning we come here, 6 gets printed, and again 6 is removed from the stack, and we have nothing, and we go back to main. So as you can see that we got our pattern printed here. So one thing you could see is that we solved this problem. We couldn't directly come with a solution, but we did some sort of observations. Whatever we knew, we wrote the code. Okay, so this is how the code is going to work. Now let's just go ahead and write the code. So basically we have the code in here. Now we just have to use the language C, C++, Java, whatever language we follow. We have to use that particular language and just convert this into a proper code that could be run in the compiler. Let's try and do that. Okay, so till now we are pretty much clear with what is the question. We have already seen that how we are going to have the recursive code. It's just that now we have to write that code in Java syntax, according to Java syntax. And also make sure you have tried this code on your own before you are watching the video, because the way we have discussed the implementation, we have done everything. Now again, as I'm repeating, we just have to do as per the syntax so that the code compiles successfully. Okay, now let's try and do that. So here we have scanner object to get the input. We have already taken n and t as the variable. T is the number of test cases. We have taken that as input. For every test case, we are taking n as the input. Now let's see how we are going to write the code. So what we did was that we had a method named print num. I'll pass n. Obviously I'm getting error because we don't have any such method. Let's try and make that method. So we will have static void print so the very first line will have the print statement for printing n. We'll just remove the ln part because we want it to be in the same line. We'll add the space though. Less than equal to 0, we will return. This is my base condition. And then we'll make a call. We'll make the recursive call. Okay, and then we'll have the next print statement that is used to do the printing in the reverse order. I'll again remove the ln. I should have just copied it. Okay, no worries. Okay, so that is my code. I'll add just one extra new line statement here, because for every test case the output has to be in new line, right? Let's just try and run this and see if we have written the correct code or we have done some goof ups. Okay, let's just print. So our first input was 16. Okay, we are getting issue. Okay, so we have added quotes here. We'll remove the quotes. See, so we can do such things while writing the code. Okay, let's just run again. We have two test cases. One is 16. Okay, I get. Let's see if we got the right output. Yes, the output looks pretty much similar. The other one was 10. Okay, so we have written the code. Let's just try and submit and see if we are getting the right answer or we are getting our answer accepted. So we will go there, select Java, remove this because we have our own main, and we'll simply submit the code. So as you can see, our code gets accepted. So make sure you're writing the code on your own, you're trying it on your own, and you're getting it accepted. And if you're getting some wrong answer or something, try new test cases, dry run your code. It's really important that you dry run your recursive code as much as possible. Just make these stacks, and this will help you in solving the problems going ahead.